That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
All right, guys, y'all showed an insane amount of support in yesterday's video where we talked about the running back landing spots. So let's come out, do the same thing at the wide receiver position. Now, before we get into it, I have to talk about our draft guide just because we've been getting so many questions like, when is it coming out? How can I expect to get it? And if you are already supporting the show on Patreon in that Motherflocker tier, you are just going to have automatic access to it, where I don't think I'll make the post on Patreon. What will probably happen is you can just shoot me a DM there and I will email you the PDF. And also for people wanting to know what to expect with it, to be completely honest, I think it's going to be very different from other draft guides that you've seen in the past. I mean, here I made more so a novel, and I didn't want to, but just every thought that I had about this draft class, every thought that I had in terms of what actually matters for Dynasty fantasy football with these rookies coming in. I mean, I just threw it down there. I threw down at the very beginning about 20 pages of what we are looking for with certain positions. Thereafter that, you're just having nonstop in-depth breakdowns of these rookies coming in and what boxes do they check, what boxes do they excel in, and where are they lacking in the context behind that. So I really think it's going to help you out, but to be honest, it may not be the most fun read just because it's probably going to be like over 100 pages or so. So if you're not a big time reader, if you just like watching videos instead, then it's probably not for you. But I've spent hundreds of hours probably at this point writing it. So I am very excited for y'all to see it after the NFL draft. That way we can throw on those landing spots and those situations. But anyway, let's dive into this video. Let's rank these wide receiver potential landing spots. And our first team is going to be the Green Bay Packers. And yes, I know Davante Adams, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Davante Adams, a guy that consistently sees a league-high team target share. I mean, unless you want to throw out the year with Michael Thomas in 2019. But it doesn't matter. What I'm looking at with the Green Bay Packers is the fact that this coaching staff has been extremely impressive with the first 2 years that they've been calling shots. Also, we have seen just Aaron Rodgers go back to his career high level in efficiency. Now, there's no reason to expect this to drop off anytime soon, but even if it does, even if Aaron Rodgers hits that wall, they have Jordan Love waiting in the wings. They have an answer where you're not going to be sitting around like the Pittsburgh Steelers when Ben Roethlisberger is gone. No, the Green Bay Packers should have above average to great quarterback play for the next 5-6 years, which is what you're looking for with these wide receivers. And the Green Bay Packers really have not had a shot to get anybody targets outside of Davante Adams in this offense. This team has not had a shot at having a great wide receiver too since you had the Jordy Nelson, since you had the Randall Cobb days. But anyway, here with Green Bay, they have the 29th overall selection, the 62nd, as well as the 93rd. Now here at 29, they're going to be looking at some potential wide receivers. They're going to be looking at a guy like Terrace Marshall, Kadarius Toney. And I know in Dynasty, not that many people are excited about Kadarius Toney, but I think that he would actually be a great fit here. Because with Toney, what you're looking at is a wide receiver with a ton of athleticism, a wide receiver that can kind of be moved all over the field, and he doesn't need a ton of targets to be productive. And the reason not a lot of people like him in Dynasty is a correct reason, in that he doesn't profile to be someone seeing a significant target share. But what you're looking for with those wide receivers that are supposed to win off of efficiency, you're looking for great quarterback play, because if the quarterback efficiency is at an elite level, those wide receivers that may not see that many targets, if they excel in their own right, then that's the situation that you can get very excited about. Now, Terrace Marshall, obviously Dynasty owners would like that. And if we go to the 62nd overall selection, here it's going to be a little bit harder. I will say a wide receiver I'm not a massive fan of would be a great fit here in Dyami Brown. And now y'all know the reason I don't like Brown is just because he profiles to be someone that's a field stretcher. You see this with an elite yards per reception and elite yards per target in college, but very similar to James Washington, a player that we've compared him to before. He was that elite field stretcher in college. Then he gets to the combine, aka his pro day, and he can't display that elite level speed. And we understand at the NFL level, at the wide receiver position, you don't need elite level speed unless you profile to be the Will Fuller, unless you profile to be the Tyreek Hill, the guy that's going to take the top off the defense. And that's why I'm not a massive fan of him, but that's the role that needs to be filled in this Green Bay Packers offense. Another player I think could fill that role would be Rondale Moore. Now, Rondale Moore, I doubt he would fall to 62. I think what you would actually have to see is the Packers take him at 29. But anyway, I mean, this team needs a wide receiver too. You see Robert Tonyan, out of all players, getting heavily targeted last season. And say what you want about Robert Tonyan, I'm going to be saying that he is a Jag that fell into a great situation, that saw a very lucky touchdown rate, and has a couple people in Dynasty fooled with who he really is. I mean, a wide receiver 2 coming in is going to be playing in one of the most efficient offenses in the NFL, and there are targets to be had. Now, our next team is going to be one that I know not many people agree with me here just because they don't want to see it, but we are going to be talking about the Cincinnati Bengals, who pick at 5, 38, and 69 for the real places we're going to be looking. Now, at 5, obviously, there are pretty much only going to be 2 players in consideration here. You could see Jamar Chase or you could see Kyle Pitts. Now, Jamar Chase obviously has the connection to Joe Burrow. In my opinion, though, I mean, I'm tired of people arguing, hey, does this team need to go with offensive line? Do they need to go get Joe Burrow's guy in Jamar Chase to add another weapon to this team? Why don't you just get the best of both worlds? Why don't you just draft Kyle Pitts and see that bump up in offensive line efficiency whenever Joe Mixon is running the ball, yet at the same time add an elite pass catching option for Joe Burrow in this offense? I think that's a nice little compromise, and I think that Cincinnati is going to be a fantastic spot for whatever pass catching option goes there, whether it's a tight end, whether it's a wide receiver. Now at 5, I don't think it's too likely that they actually add a pass catcher, but they have some other picks they could do so. They have 38. 38 is going to be the perfect spot because you look at Cincinnati right now. Yes, T. Higgins, a great alpha wide receiver. What does T. Higgins not really have? T. Higgins doesn't have the elite speed. He really can't stretch the top on the defense. But at 38, I mean, there are some very intriguing players. You could go out and replace Tyler Boyd going forward with a much faster version, a much better version of Tyler Boyd in Elijah Moore. You could do the same thing with Rondale Moore at that 38th overall selection. So Cincinnati, a team that's going to be airing the ball out. We saw Zach Taylor continually allow Joe Burrow to just go off the leash, and Joe Burrow looked fantastic his rookie season. Obviously, one of the best quarterback prospects to ever enter the NFL draft with what he did in 2019 at LSU. So because of great quarterback play, the willingness to just throw the ball over and over and over again, and the fact that there's really only one solidified wide receiver on this team, I think that Cincinnati is a fantastic landing spot for any pass catcher. Okay, so now let's go to our next team. Let's not waste any time. We got to get through this a little bit faster. Let's go to the Los Angeles Chargers, who pick at 13, 47, and 78. Now, yes, they have Mike Williams there, who is playing under the last year of his rookie contract. They have Keenan Allen, who's the more important piece when you look at this, but Keenan Allen is a very specific wide receiver. He is that slot guy, where at 13, I mean, can you imagine Jalen Waddle coming in and bringing elite level speed to this offense? Now, I think that would be a perfect complement for Keenan Allen, for Austin Eckler, guys that want space underneath. And we talk about this all the time. The wide receiver position has many positions within it. And I think what this team lacks is that elite field stretching option. They try to get it with Jalen Guyton. They have tried to use Mike Williams in that role, which I don't really think he's fit for. Now, if you go out and get Jalen Waddle with that 13th overall pick, I think it unlocks the overall offense. Now, the question is, will Jalen Waddle fall that far? If he doesn't, I think Devonta Smith would honestly be an intriguing selection here. Yet, really, outside of that, you're not going to be looking at any other wide receivers in this draft until you get to that 47th and 78th pick. Not 47, you can see some intriguing names. The guys that we already discussed, Rondale Moore would be interesting. The thing with Rondale Moore is if he comes on this team, you can't play him close to the line of scrimmage. He's going to really have to use that elite speed to be that field stretching type player. Maybe you could go get a prototypical X wide receiver in someone like Terrace Marshall if for whatever reason, maybe dynasty owners are a little bit higher on him than the NFL actually is and he falls to 47. But anyway, I mean, this is a team that has a hole at wide receiver too, has one of the best young passers in the entire NFL. So I think the Chargers are going to be a great spot. Okay, so now let's go over to the Buffalo Bills with our next spot. And I know that, hey, they brought in Emmanuel Sanders. I know that Gabriel Davis has his truthers, and Stephon Diggs is one of the top wide receivers in the entire NFL. But Buffalo is another one of these teams. They don't care if they're throwing this ball 50 times in a game. They don't care if they're going to ask Josh Allen to just drop back every single time, either air it out or run it himself. Now, I think this is a perfect spot. They lose John Brown. Now, they have the 30th overall pick, the 61st, and the 94th. I mean, at 30, talk about Terrace Marshall playing alongside Stephon Diggs. I actually think that a wide receiver that I don't like as much as some other people, a Rashad Bateman, would be a perfect fit for this Buffalo Bills offense because Gabriel Davis can stretch the field and Stephon Diggs can play that X wide receiver role. So you do have a lot of flexibility with what kind of wide receiver you could find landing in Buffalo. But regardless, they're going to be playing with a great quarterback. They're going to be playing in a pass-happy offense. So that's going to be a good situation. Now, our next team is going to be a polarizing team, a team that should probably be one of the worst in the NFL over the next 3 years. This is going to be the Houston Texans, who do not have a first-round pick, who do not have a second-round pick. They only have a 67th overall pick that you could look at a significant wide receiver going to. Now, I know Deshaun Watson may not even be playing in Houston in 2021, but if you're looking at this team in the long haul, I mean, this is a team that at the wide receiver position really has no talent. I mean, they are letting go of Randall Cobb. They have Brandon Cooks, who is hurt every other week. Will Fuller is already gone out of this situation. So if Deshaun Watson stays, if Deshaun Watson can actually play, you're looking at his wide receiver one being Brandon Cooks until Brandon Cooks gets hurt. Then you're looking at it being Kiki QT. And I think that if you had a wide receiver like Elijah Moore going to Houston with that 67th overall pick, I think that would be a fantastic fit, and that Moore could play the slot. Moore could be a little bit of that speedy wide receiver. Now, he may not fall that far. Maybe you see a Diami Brown come in and try to learn next to Brandon Cooks how to play that field stretching role and take over once Cooks is done in Houston. But yeah, Houston's going to have so many targets available, and I understand that this is one of the worst teams in the NFL, but they have one of the best quarterbacks, and this quarterback has had an elite level of efficiency ever since coming out of Clemson. So you can't just look at this situation and say that it's horrible. It's honestly pretty good. It's just unlikely that anybody significant goes there. Okay, so now our next team lost out on a former top 5 overall drafted wide receiver. It's going to be the Tennessee Titans, losing Corey Davis, losing Jonnu Smith. And yes, I know they bring in Josh Reynolds, blah, blah, blah. I know they have Anthony Ferguson, but still, those aren't significant options. The only significant option right now in Tennessee is A.J. Brown. Now, the reason they're a little bit lower than some other teams on this list that also have that alpha wide receiver 1, yet they don't have an answer at wide receiver 2, is simply because Tennessee's not going to throw it as much as a Buffalo. It's because Tennessee's not going to be throwing it as much as Cincinnati. So regardless of whatever the efficiency level is of Ryan Tannehill, if the volume's not there, I think you have to ding them a little bit. But anyway, since A.J. Brown plays that alpha X wide receiver role, you can really see any wide receiver going to Tennessee and making it a nice fit. I mean, you can see a field stretching option. You can see a guy playing in the slot. And they have a ton of picks where they can make some noise. I mean, they have the 22nd overall selection. They have the 53rd. They have the 86th and the 101st. So please let me know if y'all think I'm overvaluing this a little bit, but I'm just viewing it as, hey, while the passing volume may not be there, I mean, this team does not have a ton of passing options. So if you get drafted with that 22nd overall pick, if you get drafted with that 53rd overall pick, pretty much guarantees you the fact that you're going to start over Josh Reynolds, or at the very minimum, you're going to start in 3 wide receiver sets for Tennessee in 2021. But let me know what y'all are thinking. All right, so now let's get to our next team. This is going to be the Miami Dolphins. Now, Miami, we mentioned them at the very top of our running back landing spot list. But here with Miami, we're just looking at this as a team that has so many assets that I do not think that they are done investing into the wide receiver position. I mean, they have that 6th overall pick that they traded up to, and I think that we can all assume at that 6th overall pick, if they stay there, the reason they traded up to get it is to get a Jamar Chase. It's to get a Kyle Pitts. Whoever Cincinnati decides to leave them at that 6th overall selection. Now, Miami also has the 18th, the 36th, the 50th, the 82nd, and yes, they have Devontae Parker, but if you look at Devontae Parker starting next offseason, he really doesn't have that much long-term guaranteed money. Will Fuller is only on a 1-year deal. So really, starting in 2022, the Miami is completely open for wide receivers to come in. I think that's why they're going to invest significantly into the wide receiver position in this draft and then let Will Fuller go somewhere else next year. All right, so now let's get up our next team. This is going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars, who obviously have Trevor Lawrence coming in. And yes, I know a lot of people are excited about DJ Chark. A lot of people are excited about Laviska Shenault for good reasons. But we have seen this time and time again. A new quarterback, a new coach coming in, they are completely willing to just completely pivot and go get their guys that they think will fit their schemes. So if you're talking about DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault, both guys that weren't necessarily world beaters last year, combined with the fact that this team is going to have a new franchise quarterback and we don't know what the passing volume is going to look like, I think you can see some upside here for this team to go wide receiver at that 25th overall pick, that 33rd, that 45th, or that 65th, because I think DJ Chark and Laviska Shenault just simply aren't as safe as most Dynasty owners are implying that they are right now with their current value. Okay, so now let's get our last team up here. This is going to be a very similar situation in the New York Jets, who just added Corey Davis, who drafted Denzel Mims in the second round last offseason. But bringing in Zach Wilson, completely new coaching staff, completely new front office. I think you would not be too surprised if the Jets decide to just completely give up on Denzel Mims, because what you can have is you can have the coach, you can have the general manager going to the president, going to the owner of the team, saying, hey man, of course we're not going to use Denzel Mims. We should have never drafted Denzel Mims in the first place. That's not my fault. We're going to go get our guy at 23. We're going to go get our guy at 34, 66, 87, wherever they decide to. And if that's the case, I mean, you're pretty much going all in on Zach Wilson, going, can he actually provide us a decent amount of value? Can he raise the efficiency of the New York Jets offense? Now, I don't have the exact answer to that. It's definitely a wild card, but that's why they are at the bottom of this list. Now, thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I really hope y'all got something from it. Of course, if y'all did, go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a ton, and I will see y'all with the video tomorrow. I want to give a big thank you for everyone joining the flock: Devin Strom, Alejandro, Mark, Jared, Caleb, and IV of Lean, Randotron, Micah, Larry, and Tyler.